you like digital board games and being the richest person on the board, along with games such as the Rich Man series, Fortune Street, Billion Road, and dare I say Monopoly, shudder shudder, you may well enjoy yourselves with the Moneymakers Rallye. It's the latest in a series of like sub-genre games where you race around a map to a target destination to get as much money as possible, buying up properties along the way as you go. It's for 1 to 6 players, both locally and or online, and there are AI bots to fill up the gaps, and you can go basically from 2 to 6 players. You can kind of have anywhere in between there. It's a game that scales really well, and the other thing I'd say about the Moneymakers Rallye is that it also scales really well for time. I recommend this game if you really enjoy quite lengthy games, because the game gets much more interesting the longer you play it. So if you're trying to go for a short, sharp game, and you only ever want to spend 30 minutes, say, doing a digital board game, this might not always be the best choice for you. The game is also heavily similar to the game I recently reviewed on this channel called Billion Road. So I will explain how this game works like in a nutshell, and then I'll do the similarities between the two and what I liked and disliked and what the strengths and weaknesses between Moneymakers Rallye and Billion Road, because the games are nigh on identical except for theming and a few key design choices later on down the road. The Moneymakers Rallye asks you how many rounds you want to play, and then how many characters, and then you're dropped onto this board game, which is the whole of Europe for you to drive around in your cars, occasionally fly, and sometimes get on a boat as well. You'll be randomly selected a target destination somewhere in Europe to get to, and then you'll be rolling dice in order to get there. The first one to get there will then gain a huge cash prize, and then, like everyone else further back does not get anything. The person in last place will then basically have a curse put over them for the next round in the game, so they will have potentially some negative effects for being in last. The thing you never want to be in the Moneymakers Rallye is last place at the end of a round. Be anywhere else, just don't be there. At the end of each round, you then go into a lottery where you can purchase lottery tickets and try and get some cash through a 20-ball lottery. And then the next target destination is picked, and off and away you go, charging away for that as well. As you're charging around the map of Europe, there's a couple of key things that are going on behind the scenes that you need to kind of grasp in order to do well at the Moneymakers Rallye. And this is why I recommend games being longer rather than shorter. As you go around all the different places on the map, you'll be landing on different cities, and every city has a variety, normally about 6 or 7 different properties at different prices for you to buy. And you might not always have the money to buy them, but if you do, it's worthwhile to try and invest in them, because every turn, or every round rather, or both, sorry, to be fair, you will get a kind of income back from each destination and each building that you buy from. So, when you're playing a short game, this doesn't really bear out too well, because you spend so much money to buy the properties, you don't really gain enough of that money back over time to make it like a huge part of the gameplay element. But the longer the games are, the more you go back and forth across Europe for each round trying to get to the next destination, the more likely you are to go back and forth over the same cities over and over again. Landing on stuff over and over when you've got the money means that you can buy more properties, which means that you've invested in more, which means they give you more passive income, which then allows you to buy more properties, and so on the cycle begins. And if you play a short game of the Moneymakers Rallye, you don't really get into that cycle very well. It's just literally a dice race to see who can get to the first place first, because that prize limit or prize element of being first kind of outweighs a lot of the property investment side of the game. So, with that kind of being said, as you go back and forth across Europe, you'll then be trying to work out, do I want to get back to the places that I've done before, even though it will be a detour and it might put me slightly further behind in the race, But at the moment, I've got enough money to then invest in some more properties, because if you can invest in all the properties in a city, it doubles your revenue and therefore doubles the net worth of everything. And that's really key, because at the end of the game, it's about the net worth of your buildings, the amount of cash that you're currently holding, the properties kind of net worth altogether as well. So you really do have to think like holistically the longer the game progresses, and you don't need to do that if you're just doing a short 10-round game. As the game progresses, you'll also be able to upgrade your character by stopping off in upgrade shops to stop you getting hit by attacks, or to keep some of your kind of ability cards safe. And there's about 40 ability cards. Some of them are very helpful because they will let you like choose between 2 or 3 dice that you roll which number you want to go for, and that can be key to try and land on that central target destination. Some of them could be that you make people miss a turn. Some of it could be that you end up having 4 or 5 dice and you can roll like a 40 and really get yourself out from last place. Or it could be that you're just protecting a card from someone trying to steal it and someone else has a steal card. You've got all of that kind of going on in the background as well. And that keeps you on your toes because everyone will have different tactics. And because the game is also quite helpful to whoever's in last place financially, not necessarily last place in terms of that current round in the race where you're going to the target destination, it means that no one ever truly kind of falls off the plank of last place to kind of be stuck there for hours and hours going, but I'm always going to be last, because there's like a welfare blimp that pops out and it will help you out if you're doing really terribly. That can be quite annoying if you've done a really good game, and it does feel like you can be very quickly ganged up on with the Moneymakers Rallye. But the same is true of every game of this type of ilk, where because the games are designed to go on for hours on end, much like Monopoly used to, you kind of get used to the fact that last place will get a little bit of helping out. So you kind of have to prepare for that. Outside of that, there's also a few other little mini games to play with. You've got the roulette wheel for you to kind of bet on, and the blackjack as well to play with. I wish that there was some more casino-styled games in there to really kind of fill out exactly like the type of theme, because it's all going with this like Monte Carlo rally vibe, which works really nicely. But I'd have liked to have seen some more casino mini games kind of popped into the game itself. So if you was just looking at this purely as your very first kind of dive into and get into kind of property investment board game, but not really, I think one of the key things that you need to note with this and with Fortune Street and with Monopoly is that the key difference with the Moneymakers Rallye is that you don't get penalised for landing on other people's properties. And once you kind of get out from that and you're going around just trying to buy stuff up, that changes your mindset. And that's why I put Moneymakers Rallye and Billionaire in this same kind, Billion Road, in this same kind of train, because they both do exactly the same thing to try and ignore a lot of the negatives that come from landing on people's property to keep you in the game and to keep you kind of constantly investing and going for more. The issue with that is that because the board is quite wide and varied, you do need a long game for it to kind of really take effect. So just be aware you need to put in the time, same as Billion Road. Where the Moneymakers Rallye has an up over Billion Road is that it doesn't have so much fluff going on to try and make it zany and crazy. It's much more quick-paced, it's less time between turns, you can speed up actions if you want to, and so that makes the game flow quicker. And there's much more in terms of visual help on the screen to understand what's going on in the game. So you can see what everyone's up to, you can see what their cards are, you can also see on the top of the screen where you are in terms of that specific stage as well as where you are in the game. So you know whether or not you can kind of, you might not be able to win this round specifically, but if you know you're nowhere near last place, you can kind of breathe a sigh of relief and maybe strategically place yourself to then go for the next round or to start buying up property or something like that. And I find that really helpful for the Moneymakers Rallye. The only kind of downside is that if you've got Billion Road, you've kind of already got the Moneymakers Rallye. It's a reskin and a rethink of the same type of game. It works beautifully well. It is less faffy, I will give it that, and it feels less randomised as well. With Billion Road, there was so much randomisation going on with weird, crazy events. That sometimes it felt like you was out of control of your own destiny, whereas I felt like I was more in control with the Moneymakers Rallye. Now, obviously, if you're dice rolling, if you've got some kind of weird event still would pop up every now and then, but and I'm saying things like regions of Europe would have like a recession or something like that, so therefore your property values would go down, and you can't really stop that. It's just a thing that happens, a bit like a chance card in Monopoly. But I still felt like I was more in control of my destiny, and it was more skill related than what Billion Road was and is. So if that's music to your ears, I think the Moneymakers Rallye will be really, really good for you. It's also a much better price point for what is nigh on the same experience. And I had a great time with it, to be fair. It worked well over Steam Remote Play. It's worked well against AI. What I will say with the AI is that I played with someone on easy, someone on medium, someone on hard, and then I was doing combos of each. And the easy player won more times than the hard player did. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with those AI difficulties. But I appreciate that they were all kind of there and doing their own thing and played properly, which was good. So yeah, the Moneymakers Rallye. I do genuinely recommend this game as probably being the easiest and most accessible and the cheapest of that whole going round a massive map buying property in a race to the next property kind of subgenre of digital board games. I still feel like Fortune Street is probably a better example because when you land on stuff, you have to pay stuff. There's a delineation here between, do you want to have to pay for landing on people's property, or are you just going about investing? If you want to go just about investing, the Moneymakers Rallye, time and time again, definitely thumbs up from me. So, there we go. I hope that was informative. You've seen plenty of gameplay over there. A written review will be over on highplayinggames.com. If you've got any questions, because I feel like I've skipped over maybe some of the nuances of the mechanics to try and give an overview of this review, leave your comments down below and questions, and I'll get back to you on it. And yeah, thumbs up from me. You guys take care. Bye for now. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a collection of media projects ran by me. If you like what you see and want to find out more, visit patreon.com/Higher Plane Network. Your support can make so much more possible, be that a like, a comment, a share, or a pledge. Thanks for watching.